How goes it, everybody? Here for another Listens of the Month. This time we're finally getting through November. We got a lot less this time, so the video is going to be, thankfully, a lot shorter. This month and last month, I've put less pressure on myself to listen to as much as possible, so this is going to be a lot more of an easygoing month to get through, I guess. But regardless, I'm still excited to talk about each of these records, I guess, in depth a little bit, which is the whole point of this series. So thank you for tuning in if you have been keeping up with these. It means a lot. So we're going to do the usual thing. I'm going to make myself smaller, and yeah. First off for November is Black Pyramid, self-titled. Admittedly, I don't remember too much from this album. I should have given at least a couple songs a re-listen. But I think the first couple songs are what really drew me into it. It might have came up on randomly on like an album radio on Spotify, and I think I do remember somewhat enjoying it. So there's that at least. So yeah, because I found this thing randomly, it was a first time listen. I was like, yeah, let's give it a shot. I like what I hear, so let's give it a listen. Then after that, we have this wonderful record right here. Well, it's not wonderful thematically, I guess you could say, but Typo Negative's World Coming Down. But yeah, this album is very dark, and but it's so well written. I love the performances. This might very well be my favorite Typo Negative album. It's probably competing with October Rust, to be honest, but honestly, like, to be real, in early November, I was in a very, very, very dark place, and I really needed this album at the time, as well as a couple more we'll get to. But yeah, easily one of the roughest periods of my life was like late October, early November. It was just not a good time for me. I've never felt like that low, just in general. But yeah, regardless, the record is absolutely phenomenal. I strongly recommend it. After that, we have the latest from Animals as Leaders, Parrhesia. It's not their boldest or most memorable album. It's also notably their shortest, but there's still good tracks on here. And whenever Animals as Leaders put something out as sparse as it is these days, it's always worth a listen for sure, because you never know exactly what they're going to do, what they're going to pull out, how they're going to play. And this was definitely quality for sure. I enjoyed listening to it. It was great revisiting it. And then we have Alcest with their masterpiece, in my opinion. Even though this is the first time listen for me, I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation of this. Souvenirs d'un autre monde? Monde? Yeah, I tried. Very, very pretty. I love the aesthetic of the soundscapes. Very much post metal. It's just really, really pretty stuff. It's wonderfully orchestrated and composed, I guess you could say. Yeah, I really need to start listening to even more of the stuff. But yeah, this is another one of those mood albums that was like, keep me from really falling. I was really in a dark place, I guess you could say. And right after that, we have my favorite ISIS album. I strongly recommend this one, Oceanic. Absolutely love this record. I really can't say enough good things about it. It's a really, really neat middle point for them, because it has the really heavy and abrasive sludgy parts of Celestial, but it dips its toe into a whole lot more of the shoegaze material that's like more fully explored on the follow-up album Panopticon. Either way, this album's fantastic. False Light, Wait are just a couple huge favorites of mine. Carrie, Maritime, even the beginning and the end. Just loving this record. It's easily like within my top 100 albums of all time, favorites. That is, yeah. Like I said, strongly recommend. And then here we have Disperser. Now this is the cover for their single Snake Eyes. These guys are a Sacramento hardcore band, and so this cover right here is a placeholder, because they put out a new EP in the beginning of November. and I listened to it more than once, and it's great. The new EP is called "Burned at Both Ends." Do not sleep on this. Snake Eyes is like their biggest song, but the EP is 4 new tracks, and they're bangers. They're absolute bangers. Don't sleep on these guys. They're homies. They bring it. Check them out. Disperser CA to be accurate. Then after that, we have Crowbar with Oddfellows Rest. This is still me continuing their discography. And just like any Crowbar record, this is chock full of great riffs, real sludgy moments, real dark one too. This one, like there are some real like just slow burners that are just you just melt into. Really dig this one. Moving on from there, we have Converge with Axe to Fall. And yeah, this is just a continuation of their discography as well. So just like Oddfellows Rest, this one was a first time listen for me as well. Yeah, Axe to Fall is really, really good. I still need to get a move on with their discography and at least attempt to try to like remember more from these records too. Then right after that, we have the new Joji record. My God, I was so friggin' hyped about this, and for good reason too. Like it's not even really a fully fleshed out like full length album. It's more like an EP. It's only like 26 minutes, yet there's 2 discs, and I find that odd. But it regardless, like Joji's always trying to do something different, a bit more bolder, a bit more left field with his releases. And even though this one is not fully like realized, I guess, like there are some tracks that are very short, rather unfinished, and don't really go anywhere. Some of his best songs still end up on here. Like Glimpse of Us is just heart shattering. And I think my other 2 favorite tracks are easily Before the Day is Over and Die for You. And obviously I listened to this one several times in November, and it's another one of those records that really just like helped alleviate my mood, I guess, back then. Then after that, I gave a re-listen to Evacuate Chicago's album Veracity. For those of you who do not know, this is the quote-unquote serious project from the dudes in PSYCHOSTICK. After they put out Sandwich, they had some songs, just sitting around that they've had for a while, and they put it all together. It was just the 3 main guys that have been in the band forever, Josh, Rob, and Alex, and it's really good. Like it's not the most well produced or not the most thought provoking or boldest batch of songs, but it's still really good, and I enjoy a lot of the stuff on here for sure. Some tracks really do go hard, and like the anger and frustration that this album just encapsulates is palpable for sure. Occasional Leather #1, Deny, just fire tracks, Ferocious. The Damage Has Been Done. Progress Beyond Repair is another track, but I would say my favorite song has to be Perfect Ratio. Really good. Proof of Dark Matter is up there too. Like they could really write good serious songs if they wanted to, and I would not oppose getting another Evacuate Chicago record, because I'm sure there's got to be some material bubbling underneath, especially with Matt in the band too, who can contribute to new ideas. Anyway, hopefully at some point I actually do get to review all these albums instead of talking them in just such a condensed format like this. Anyway, after that I gave Sepultura's Ruhrback a listen for the first time, and this is part of my slow ongoing progress of listening through yet another band's discography, and this one I was unsure about not recommending it because there's not much here, but honestly, it does have some pretty cool ideas here and there that really work. Like, they're simple ideas, but there are some songs that are fleshed out to be like actually like, okay, this kind of rocks. This is cool. I kind of like this. So it's not the worst thing. It's a lot better than their first 2 records without Max. But yeah, I'm interested to see what the album after this sounds like. But yeah, slow and steady process, I guess you could say. And then, continuing with Helmet's discography, I gave their album Meantime a listen. And yeah, rocks so hard. I can really see where Deftones and Chevelle get a lot of their influence from, especially from another album of theirs, which we will get to soon. But yeah, riffs for days. In the meantime, goes super hard, and then and obviously unsung, like deserves all the praise it gets. Like it's such a good classic track, easily. Yeah, after seeing these guys put on such a loud, heavy, abrasive show at Aftershock, I'm very much. I've very much been eager to get through their stuff. After that, we have the newest album, or should I say albums, from Devin Townsend, Lightwork and Nightwork. Lightwork is the main project, and Nightwork is, I guess, the deluxe version tacked on some extra songs and whatnot. But really, like it's Devin Townsend. It's unlike the Puzzle and Snuggles. These are actually like songs. Most of which can easily be played on the radio if the radio was actually cool. But yeah, I listened to this and Nightwork multiple times throughout the month, and I really like what I hear. It's not his best work, but it's far from his worst. Lightworker, even Moon People I've grown to like a lot. Call the Void is easily my favorite track on here, but Celestial Signals is pretty fire as well. I would really compare this to his Sky Blue record with a little bit of empath in there, I guess. Just real uplifting stuff, and I love it. And Nightwork is somewhat in the same vein, but like it's really interesting how like it starts off with just the most brutal, abrasive stuff, like really like almost deconstruction levels of heavy and epic, and then just eases off as the album goes on. But there are some really cool tracks on here as well. It's not as good as Lightwork. But Sober is a notably good track. I do need to give these albums a listen again. But yeah, Nightwork's not as memorable as Lightwork, but still, as a package deal, they're very solid. Then after that, we have Vows with Under the World, and it's not a bad listen. I think, admittedly, I prefer The Great Sun, since this was the first time listening to it. But there's still really good songs on here for sure. It just really makes me anticipate like where exactly they go from here next, because they've released a handful of singles since they put out this album almost 5 years ago at this point. So can't wait for another full length to drop, that's for sure. It's not a bad list. I remember enjoying it a lot. Then we have easily one of my favorite extreme metal albums in general. Just my god, I personally consider this the best Infant Annihilator album. The Elysian Grandival Galeriarch, and holy ass, dude. Just from track to track to track, just utter, sheer, chaotic, relentless brutality. Great production, too. Way, 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 way better than their debut album, at least. The musicianship is unmatched. The riffs here and there, my god, carry these songs. Crucifilth, get out of here, dude. Or Soil the Stillborn. Even the opener, Unholy Grave Birth, which does To the Hellfire, like that's the original To the Hellfire. Those pig vocals before the, Anyway, but yeah, even the 17-minute epic is it like keeps your attention all the way through, and it has all these guest vocals on it that that are just epic. And obviously there's another track called Blasphemian that just kills on this record. It's really good. I strongly recommend this. If you're into deathcore or even death metal, like if you're into slams like tech death, this is like it's a really like well-rounded package. This album, yeah, like I said, strongly recommend. And continuing a deathcore streak in this part of the month, I guess you could say, we have Traders with Repent, which isn't exactly deathcore. But I wouldn't be opposed to them like seeing them at a deathcore show. Obviously, they really do bring a lot of brutality. And while this is not the strongest Traders release, it still does have a lot going for it. It kind of recalls a lot of their debut full length, The Hate Campaign, which is really cool. But yeah, Ignorance is a great track. Left to Rot, Dwell. Really tons of heavy moments, but not really as compelling as some of their other work, I would say. And then we have this interesting release, Oceano Incisions. This was neat to revisit. While the production is admittedly kind of crap, this one I feel is a little underrated. It's definitely like it's super flawed. especially in comparison to the rest of Oceano's work. But this was them really trying to just do something like different. This is the same lineup that they wrote Contagion with, and a lot of these tracks are really just powered by the riffs, and that's what I really appreciate about this. Like, some of my favorite guitar riffs, like in general, actually end up on this record. There's a couple in Internal War that are just killer. Track Disseverance is just awesome. Just I don't know what it is, and of course there are other killer tracks too, like Sever the Appendages, Blasphemous Mask. A lot of stuff that I would really like them to pull out live, but unfortunately I don't think they will. I'll never forget hearing Slow Murder for the first time, when like right when this album was brand new. Me and my buddy were like, "Holy, this is so heavy!" But yeah, underrated and a little unfairly ignored in my opinion. Oh, also, Embrace Nothingness is a great track. Like, I don't give a crap. You could say it's, oh, woe is me, sappy. F out of here. Shut up. Moving on from there, we have the latest from Post Malone, 12 Karat Toothache. Yeah, easily his weakest release. Not very memorable. I can't really remember many songs that I really enjoyed. I mean, I Like You is a good track, I guess. I do love that he's a lot more vulnerable with some of the songs here. But overall, it didn't do much for me, unfortunately. Then we have Lil Texas with the Texcore EP, the first one. And if you don't know about Lil Texas at this point, I kind of feel sorry for you. Electronic hardcore at its finest. Like, he hasn't even been around that long, and I consider him like among the greats. Like, especially like among the classic greats. Absolutely love Lil Texas. Pretty much everything he touches goes just unfathomably hard. So this was clearly a first time listen. Then we have Mad Season with Above. This is a little side project that Lane Staley fronted during Off Time from Alice in Chains. I think right after Jar of Flies was released. I think Mike McCready, if I remember, I think that's the guitar player's name from Pearl Jam. I don't really care about Pearl Jam, admittedly. But he did guitar on this, and yeah, it's a really low-key and gentle album. Like, it's like soft grunge, I guess is the best way to describe it. And obviously, gorgeous work. Vocals really carry the tunes. Nothing too energetic. It's just nice. It's a nice record. My first time listening to it. And speaking of Alice in Chains, we got the Tripod album, aka Self-Titled, aka the last Alice in Chains album, studio album that Lane Staley sang on. Still revisiting the Alice in Chains discography, and while this album is long and a bit of a slog, and there are a couple songs that are just okay, it's still really good. Like, I love Nothing Song, Grind, Sludge Factory, even Again is you know big hit as it is, it still goes hard. Heaven Beside You is still like a long time favorite of mine. And of course, tracks like Frogs too, just like, damn. And after that, we have Chevelle's very first album, Point Number One. So even though it does sound like them, this is a far cry from what they would become, especially just one album later. It's severely lacking in a lot of fields, I guess, sound-wise, songwriting-wise, so I do not recommend this one. But it's really interesting to see like where they as a band started. And there are a couple like really decent tracks on here too, for sure. But yeah, other than that, like, not much to get out of it. Then we have Pelican with Australasia. I've slacked on these guys for a while, and after seeing this album get pointed out in a thread somewhere, I finally gave it a listen since it's their first full length, and it's nice. Like, the spacey, moody aesthetics are great. Giant sound, obviously. It still admittedly didn't do too much for me, but I still liked what I heard. It was engaging enough to make me appreciate it, and I'm still going to carry on with their discography. So after that, we have Dead Mouse. Album title goes here. Love this record. Love it, honestly. Look at Professor Meowingtons. He's so cute. Kind of looks like my cat. Yeah, obviously this is a classic Dead Mouse record at this point. I remember when this was brand new. It still goes hard to this day. The Velt is awesome. Superliminal, my God, I can never get tired of that track really. And there's even a lot more experimentation on this one compared to his last three before this, which I really appreciate, like on Sleepless or Take Care of the Proper Paperwork. And even the track Failbait with Cypress Hill, it's just a banger. It just goes so hard. And then the track Telemis Communications, which is just so sad, but so effective too. And of course, it's got like house bangers in his vein, obviously, like Channel 42 and the awesome Professional Griefers with Gerard Way. I remember when that track was just released as an instrumental. And I still wish I wish that was more widely available because just the instrumental alone just goes so hard. Like I'm always reminded of the YouTube poop that Orpheus for the Wind does. The Misadventures of Skooks 2, where at the end he animates a bunch of different characters dancing to the instrumental version of that song at the end. It's just one of the greatest moments in any YouTube poop I've ever seen. After that, we have Judas Priest with Rockarola. So 11/11 is known as National Metal Day since at least 2011, and I decided to finally get ahead and I decided to finally start on some classic discographies of metal giants. And let me tell you, Judas Priest's first album, Rockarola, is an absolute stinker. It's terrible. I don't ever really want to listen to it again. Notably, it's the same producer who produced the first few Black Sabbath albums, I believe, or at least the very first one. I forget. You can kind of tell that it is because this album is basically if you combine the worst aspects of Black Sabbath and Pink Floyd and put them together, and it was just boring because it ended up just being super boring and I was not into it at all. I do not recommend. Then you have Motorhead's debut, self-titled, another first time listen for me. And yeah, this one comparatively rocks. It kicks ass, and yeah, it's pretty obvious. After that, we have Iron Maiden's Peace of Mind. Finally give this one a full listen all the way through, and it's so good. Each song just it's consistently great quality, and I enjoyed listening to it. A lot of great ideas, lots of great songwriting too. I just gotta remember to just listen to more albums. I listen to so much stuff, or do I? And then bringing back hardcore, well, at least modern hardcore, metalcore, at least to its roots, I guess you could say. The first Hatebreed album, Satisfaction is the Death of Desire, still to this day, super heavy, very brutal. Love a lot of the tracks on this. Such an influential band, just in general. Like the sound that they concocted, and the fact that they're still so influential to this day, and have been relatively consistent too. Even though the earliest stuff, including this album, is considered their heaviest, they still had that distinctive sound. Moving on from there, we have the newest Wheel EP, Rumination. Not sure why they released 2 songs as singles when there's literally only 3 songs on the EP, but whatever. It's okay. I was expecting a lot more. I didn't really get much from it. I did listen to it. I think I listened to it twice, at least. Blood Drinker's a cool track. I just didn't really get as much as I wanted out of it, unfortunately. And we have PSYCHOSTICK themselves with their B-Sides and Rarities collection and stuff. So because it's a big old collection, it is lengthy, but it's it's honestly great because there's a lot of stuff on here that a lot of the world hasn't really heard, or it's just so obscure most of the world hasn't even heard it. It's nice that they finally took the time to basically just collect everything over the years and either record it or put it all together and release it. It's really good because the album cover itself, you see so many references to the songs that are actually on the album. Yeah, A Bottle of Jameson, obviously, for Jameson Love Song, which is an excellent acoustic, swingy, waltzy rendition of Jägermeister Love Song. Just give it a listen. Honestly, PSYCHOSTICK really doesn't do any wrong. And also the skits are hilarious, and the Patrick Stewart impersonators are hilarious. Moving on from there, we have Drum and Bass 2017. I don't know what it was about this year, but damn, UKF compiled a bunch of bangers, for sure. Like their other compilations, it's obviously lengthy, and not every track really hits, but yeah, I remember very much enjoying this one, and adding quite a few of the tracks from it to my dance playlist, like I usually tend to do with these, which is usually the purpose of listening to them. And yeah. Then we have Chevelle's sophomore record, their breakthrough release, and just a super hit. Wonder What's Next. This is a really solid album. Like, easily some of their best songs end up on here. I can't tell you how many times I've gone back to just the opening two tracks alone. Family System, which has just some heavy friggin' riffs. Like, are you kidding me? Like, the step up in quality from their debut is just night and day, really. Then right after that, Comfortable Liar, just so simple yet so effective. I don't get it, how they do it. And of course, classic on here like The Red, which is still timeless and great. And Send the Pain Below, which is a lot like Deftones' Be Quiet and Drive, but I'm not complaining. It's sexy, it's great. The song Closure is great as well. It's not solid all the way through, but there's definitely quite a few great tracks on here. Then we have a very weird one. So hanging out with a couple buddies while they were getting stoned in their vehicle. This album was put on, and I was just baffled. Like, the first few songs alone, like, it goes from like just spacey and pretty and like atmospheric to just brutal and like chaotic, and like it just kept me guessing, like, what exactly is going to happen next. Are those some horns? Where'd those come from? Like, it was laughable, but like I enjoyed it so much that I finished the album the next day. And yeah, Maudlin of the Well, Bath, definitely a very interesting listen for sure. I still can't make heads or tails of it. So yeah, obviously a first time listen. But after that, we have another first time listen for me, So-En with Cognitive. I kept having tracks off of this album come up after listening to certain albums on Spotify, and then it would play recommended stuff. And Savia came up, and I fell in love with that song, so I gave this whole thing a listen. And from front to back, it really is pretty damn good. I really, really like this record. A lot of great tracks on here. I strongly recommend it. It's really good, just well-written prog that sits neatly in between the veins of like Tool and Opeth, and I really appreciate that. And after that, we have the first Jimi Hendrix album, Jimi Hendrix Experience, Are You Experience? And this is my first time actually getting through like the entire album and like listening to it from front to back. And it was interesting, man. Like, it was really neat. Like, this is a 55-year-old album at this point. And I just dug a lot of the off-the-wall ideas, honestly. Like, a lot of the tracks still hold up. There are a couple duds here and there. A lot of, like, ideas that aren't really as, like, flushed out, I guess you could say. But still a classic, for sure. And after that, we have a band called Foes, and their, I believe it's an EP called American Violence. They're somewhat of a local band where I am, but holy f***ing shit, dude. This is some unbelievably heavy shit. This album, well, I'm just sitting here. I just have a loss for words, because it's just so pummeling and relentless and brutal. And my God, like, you just want to just destroy into it. It's pissed off. Like, this is how hardcore should sound. Like, honestly, these guys are great. And right after that, I gave Billy Howardell's solo album a re-listen, because, of course, it's that good. I strongly recommend it. I absolutely love it. I've talked about it before in a past video on for listens of the month, but still, the quality is there. It's just gotten better and better with each listen, in my opinion. Great, catchy, memorable songs, and easily one of my favorite albums of the year, for sure. After that, we have Helmet with Betty. And like I mentioned with Meantime, yeah, like with songs like these, it's easy to see where Deftones and Chevelle get a lot of influence from. I think this is my favorite one so far. A lot of songs are just so heavy and riffy and just solid, straightforward. I love that about this record, and the production is a step up from Meantime as well. Just awesome. Milk Toast and Wilma's Rainbow. Just awesome riffs throughout this entire record. Love it. Speaking of riffs, Crowbar with Equilibrium is another one like that. Just when it comes to these guys, like you really know what to expect. I think this one was a slight step down from Oddfellows Rest, but it's still really good. Like the dark moments are really like harrowing, obviously. And I've been slacking a bit, but I can't wait to listen to their next one, which apparently most people consider their best, Sonic Excess in its purest form, which came out right after this. Then we have Slipknot with The End So Far. I gave it another listen. That way I could, rate the songs and like rank which ones like I like from least to best. I still maintain it's easily their weakest batch of songs, which sucks because like the first half of the album minus like Warranty it is like just really solid and consistent. Like they're all great songs. Not the best, but a little disappointing. After that, we have Lamb of God's Omens. And yeah, just like the Slipknot album, familiarizing myself with the new album from Lamb of God, the new songs, and just getting more of a feel for the album, the aesthetic, the overall feel and concept of the album. Which there is really no consistent concept, but the batch of songs is really good. It's far from my favorite Lamb of God album. But there's still great tracks. Ditch is still my favorite off of this for sure. And then Machine Head's newest album, obviously. Again, familiarizing myself, new album. That's kind of like, you notice the theme, right? Yeah, Of Kingdom and Crown is still really good. There hasn't been another album, say, like, aside from the new Billy Howard record, that I consider my album of the year. Admittedly, I don't listen to many, like, new releases once they come out. Of course, it depends. But yeah, this is still my album of the year. Slaughter the Martyr, I really, really hope they play it when I see them in a week. And then Gojira's latest album, Fortitude. Yeah, it's still really, really good. Not their best, but it's Gojira, so it's quality. It's great, front to back. Born for One Thing goes unbelievably hard. Amazonia rocks. Hold On and Newfound are a couple of my favorites as well. Even The Chance, like I could sing that shit, like all day. Like even the song The Trails is gorgeous. I just really wish it had like a stronger chorus because mood wise and emotive wise, like the rest of the track is pretty compelling. I wish it had more of like a climax like to end off the song. Instead it just like kind of tapers off. I thought it was about to build to something like big and grandiose to close out the song, but unfortunately that's not what we get. Can't wait to review this. Yeah, strongly recommend this, as well as the Machine Head record. And after that we have the third album from Chevelle, This Type of Thinking Could Do Us In. This is a really, really good album. A lot better than Wonder What's Next, even, in my opinion. Obviously, like, tons of great songs. The Clincher, Vitamin R leading us along is so damn good. Tug of War. Yeah, what can I say? These guys rock. After that, we're getting into some thrash territory. We have Exodus and their third album, Fabulous Disaster. I wasn't that into this record, but there are a couple really good songs. Obviously, the Toxic Waltz is a classic. The intro track is really good, but it's not as cohesive as I wished it was. That being said, there are some cool riffs like throughout the album here and there, but yeah. So this was a first time listen to for me, as well as this. And compared to, I mean, these were both put out the same year. Testament, Practice What You Preach. This album's freaking awesome. This album kicks ass. Like, it's so consistent, and the songs are fire. Like, it might be the vocals, like, because Chuck Billy is awesome. Just in comparison, like the songwriting is night and day. I know they're totally two different bands. I get it. I shouldn't make comparisons like that. And this is obviously like a several decades old like debate at this point. Like thrash bands outside the big four or whatever, or like what are the best thrash bands and thrash records. But Practice What You Preach is definitely friggin' up there. Love it. And right after that, we have Anthrax and their third album, Among the Living. This is a really good album too. Like honestly, from front to back, I enjoyed pretty much every song. Like it's still like it holds up to this day. The production is lacking. The vocals aren't as I guess well pitched and tuned, I guess you could say. But there's still fire tracks in here. Caught in a Mosh, Skeleton in the Closet, Indians, like obviously, and the playing on this, like from everyone, like everybody shines on this record for sure. The drumming is insane. The riffs are awesome. Yeah. Anyway, moving on from there. So after that, I listened to Origin's album Antithesis. This is just the wildest tech death you'll pretty much ever hear. Shout out to Paul Ryan, the guitar player. He he's a bartender at a club that I frequently go out and rave at, and whenever there's a rave, he's wearing a Party Can shirt. I'm like, "You're Paul Ryan." He's like, "Yeah, I am." And he got me a free drink, and like I've complimented him on his guitar work, because listen to the Aftermath. Like it's absolutely insane. Like how skilled of a player he is, and just it's absolutely nuts. This album is nuts. And we have Revocation with Chaos of Forms. These guys, I don't know what it is. They really know how to piece together just killer riff after killer riff. Just this album is chock full of kick-ass songs. And it's been, I've been slacking, but I've been enjoying each release from these guys so far. And like I've been slacking on them for years, honestly. But it's awesome. It's like technical thrash metal, I guess is the term commonly used for them. Great release for sure. After that, we have Chelsea Grin's newest album, Suffer in Hell. This is a part one to what's going to be a two-part release, I guess. The second part's coming, I think, in a couple months. And it's pretty good. I only listened to it once, so I'll need to re-listen to it. But I do want to go back through their entire discography again, because I forget how like essential this band has been in my metal upbringing, especially when I got into deathcore, along with the likes of Oceano, Whitechapel, Suicide Silence, Carnifex, Thy Art is Murder, etc., etc. But yeah, it's an okay record. I don't think I liked it as much as the last album with this lineup, Eternal Nightmare. But there's still some cool ideas here and there, and I'm wondering, like, I'm just hoping the part two has the bare batch of songs. But I did get quite a kick out of the title track, Suffer in Hell, Suffer in Heaven, at the end of this, which is just ridiculous breakdown of a song, just dummy nuts, the crazy pinch harmonics. So at least I got that out of it, I guess. And of course, Tom Barber killed on vocals for sure throughout. Moving on from there, we have Mugshot with Empty Heaven. Jeez, just like Foes, these guys really know how to just beat you over the head with the riff alone. Just riff into like breakdowns. They perfectly craft build up into release, and it just absolutely crushes. This is an awesome little album from Mugshot. Empty Heaven is the title. Then we have Loathe and their debut full length, The Cold Sun. While it's not as strong as a record as their second release, it's still really, really good. I love going back to It's Yours and East of Eden. Dance My Skin is really good too. It's pretty solid. It's pretty solid for sure. It's got some great moments throughout. Then I couldn't resist re-listening to the absolute masterpiece that is Tesseract's Concealing Fate EP. Strongly recommend, obviously. If you haven't listened to it yet, do yourself a favor and listen to it right after watching this. Same thing with this. I couldn't resist re-listening to this as well. Carnival Stamata album. I've gushed over this album the last few videos. Yeah, can't say enough good things about it. You know how it is. And then we have Devin Townsend with The Puzzle. I finally gave this another re-listen, and it really is just... It lives up to its title, for sure. It's like background thoughts captured and recorded, but it's also just so random. Like the composition is like what's most impressive. Like the feat of achieving such random cohesion is what really makes this record, and it's definitely an interesting one for sure. After that, I gave Spangel's I think it's still his newest album ish. He might have put out another record since then, or at least another EP. But Codex 6 or VI, I have no idea. No idea. This is the Schmongel album I'm least familiar with because it came out after a time where I was less engaged with, like, I guess, psychedelics or psychedelia in general, I guess you could say. And, you know, it's not his best batch of songs, but I still appreciated what it was. Not nearly as good as his other releases, but it was nice to revisit it, and I would listen to it again. Obviously, I'm going to review his entire discography at some point. Clock's burning life away, so unreal. Then we have the companion album to Devin Townsend's The Puzzle Project, Snuggles. And this is basically a bunch of ambient pieces, like actual ambient soundscapes and whatnot. And that's pretty much it. It's just a gentle album with nice soothing sounds. He gets Amy Dorval to do vocals on a couple of the first songs, so that's really nice because she's awesome. But other than that, not much to get this from this one. Then, I know this is probably blasphemy, but this is my first time listening to Pink Floyd's Animals. Maybe if I familiarize myself more with this record, I'll listen to their new remix version, which I heard is really good. And yeah, obviously this album deserves all the praise it gets, and I still feel like it's underrated in their catalog because The Wall and Dark Side of the Moon clearly get a whole lot more attention. But it's really good. Like, a lot of great musical moments, like undeniable for sure. Almost done. Then we have Kubla Khan with Nomad. Wait, what can I say? It's just brutal beatdown. I go back to the Hammer very, very often. It's a killer record. I've yet to be disappointed. Then we have Chevelle with Vina Sarah. Not a bad release. A little bit of a step down quality-wise after This Type of Thinking Could Do Us In. But there's still a lot of really cool songs on here. I love the opening song, Anti-Saint. It's got killer riffs on it. It really carries it. Safer Waters, Well Enough Alone is really, really good. Then I think my favorite song is like the single that was released for it, the song I Get It. Just great. Just really good. But other than that, not the best. It's not as memorable as other work that they've done. But moving on from there, we got Pallbearer, their Fear and Fury EP. I was basically priming myself because I was going to see Pallbearer soon, which I'll address in the December video. But yeah, it's got a couple of really good songs, like, because there's only a couple songs on it. And they have a really, really good cover of easily one of my favorite Type O Negative songs, Love You to Death. It does it just, like, really well. Then we have this, Cattle Decapitation's latest release as of this video, Death Atlas. It's still really, really just dark and harrowing, depressing too, but brutal as hell, relentless, some just killer tracks, and like it's pieced together like a movie in a way. High quality. The performances are top notch as always when it comes to these guys. Bring Back the Plague, obviously. I'll never forget when that video dropped, even though the album was out for a few months and then the pandemic hit and the video is just great. Yeah, it really goes to show we're all fans. We're all. And then on a whim, I just listened to the first Suicide Silence EP, and it's still raw and just disgusting, really heavy, utter filth, really, this thing. It's low quality, but this EP is kind of like one of the biggest reasons why I love Suicide Silence so much, because like they didn't give a shit. They just tried to write the most brutal shit possible. It was fast, it was techy, it was grindy, it had just pummeling breakdown. And Mitch's vocals weren't quite there at that point in their career, but it's still a really cool EP. I love Ending Is Beginning, Distorted Thought of Addiction, and obviously they go on to do a better version of Destruction of a Statue. But yeah, check it out. What are you doing? Then we have Helmet's Aftertaste. This is the last listen for November, and it's a good album. Not as compelling as the last two. There's a quality to their simplicity that I really like. It's still really effective, and it shows throughout this album. But yeah, not as good as Betty. That's all I really got to say. That is it. look at that. Look at that. We did it. We got through. And yeah, noticeably this was a lot less than the other 3 months that I've done so far. But yeah. So if you enjoyed this, or if you've listened to any of these albums, what did you think of them? Let me know in the comments. Did you love some of these? Did you hate some of these? If you're not subscribed yet, do so already. Hit the bell so you don't miss a video. And I will hopefully see you in the next one. I hope you'll be there for it. If you won't be, that's fine too. It just doesn't matter. As long as you enjoy.